Well, today I am going to discuss about AI in management education. And in that, I'm going to take about one topic, that is how use of artificial intelligence in management education can impact critical thinking. Now, for a manager, whether you are a senior manager or a junior manager or a leader, one of the most important trait is critical thinking. And we have been teaching this in management schools in different forms. Maybe you take a case study, you analyze the case study in terms of after implementing a particular management intervention, what was the impact on the output? And then you conclude A, B, C, D. Now, depending upon the way a student applies knowledge and also reflects on these concepts, they come with various solutions. And the student knew that what would be its limits and in which places it can be advantageous. But of the late, we have been seeing a trend. Take, for instance, I'm giving a student to do a pestle analysis, which is more like understanding the external environment of an organization, or in other words, maybe how external things are impacting the sector or the industry, and in turn, the organization. Of the late, we have been seeing that students tend to use large language models. I'm not saying using it is bad, but then over reliance on the large language models can create a sort of cognitively you are bowing down to artificial intelligence. Now, why is this important? A manager, an entrepreneur, has to use the faculties of human intelligence. At times, you have to naturally rely on artificial intelligence. But how well you can blend the human intelligence and artificial intelligence will create a successful organization in the modern world. Now, to do that, you have to be trained to understand the limitations of each of the intelligence. However, sometimes the over reliance on artificial intelligence can create a sort of bowing down. And this is what concerns management educators, because we tend to take the outputs from these large language models or agents, and we believe that this is the only way things could be solved. Or in other words, this is the only scenario what is being possible. So in order to avoid the so-called surrendering or bowing down to artificial intelligence, because it creates a sort of a mindset which are like a similar in nature. rather than finding out the things based on one's intellectual abilities and also the ability to understand the environment. This is an important fact we need to consider while we are educating modern day students. And also, from a student's perspective, you need to understand that you are not learning positivist sciences like physics, chemistry. You are learning constructivism. And when you are learning constructivism, you have to interpret it from the context. And to understand the context, you need to be involved with the context, not with the artificial environment or an artificial viewpoint, but rather you need to think from standing on your own feet. And this is one aspect of management which, if we, the management educators, don't address, we are going to face a, a sort of surrendering or surrenderance to the artificial intelligence. So the question arises, what is the limit? How much we should rely on artificial intelligence as managers or as management educators or as students, and how much you should rely on your human intelligence. This is a very interesting topic we need to research on. And why is it important? Because if at all we don't take care of our businesses, then we come to a point wherein you would see in future generations having an impact. So my viewpoint for making this video, or my intention behind making this video, is twofold. One, to create awareness for management educators, policymakers, and all those who are involved in management education. And another point is I want to make aware of about this surrenderance, what is happening to the users, like the students or stakeholders who are consuming management education. They need to know the limits. Yes, it's easy to put in a case study in a large language model and get a view about what's the solution, what should the manager do. But it is also equally important that you understand that you also need to solve the problem on your own. Now, you would say to me, in olden days, we used to use logarithms. Then we started using calculators. So, by using calculators, did we surrender to the machine? But this analogy is different when it compares to artificial intelligence. While using calculators, you know if 2 plus 2 is 5, you could flag it because you know the rules of mathematics. You knew the rules of adding numbers. But if this is used in management education, then it's difficult to flag what is right and what is wrong for a common man or a average educator or student who is learning it for the first time. It's like, solving a an integration problem, and we don't know using basics whether this problem is correct or not using systems. But some for the first time users, it may be difficult. So artificial intelligence offers you a lot of opportunities, and also it offers you a lot of way you can make mistakes, or what we call, you can bow down to artificial intelligence, because it's not that you are doing it intentionally, but your mind is surrendering to it because of the usage what you have been doing of this tool. So as a student or as a management educator, I want to bring this awareness that how we are surrendering to artificial agencies. Thank you very much for joining me on Business Talks today.